Archana, if she's in a position to read, she will read first.
Okay, Raghunath.
Go ahead. Or even.
For even after he is free, the sadhaka will be in the world, and to be in the world is to remain in work. But to remain in works without desire is to act for the good of the world in general, or for the kind, or the race, or for some new creation to be evolved on the earth, or some work imposed by the divine will within him. And this must be done either in the framework provided by the environment, or the grouping in which he is born or placed, or else in one which is chosen or created for him by a divine direction. Therefore, in our perfection, there must be nothing left in the mental being which conflicts with or prevents our sympathy and free self identification with the kind, the group, or whatever collective expression of the divine he is meant to lead, help, or serve. But in the end, it must become a free self identification through identity with the divine, and not a mental bond or moral tie of union or a vital association dominated by any kind of personal, social, national, communal, or creedal egoism. If any social law is obeyed, it will not be from physical necessity or from the sense of personal or general interest or for expediency or because of the pleasure of the environment or from any sense of duty, but solely for the sake of the Lord of works and because it is felt or known to be the divine will, that the social law or rule or relation as it stands can still be kept as a figure of the inner life, and the minds of men must not be disturbed by its infringement. If, on the other hand, the social law or rule or relation is disregarded, that too will not be for the indulgence of desire, personal will, or personal opinion, but because a greater rule is felt that expresses the law of the Spirit, or because it is known that there must be in the march of the divine all will, a movement towards the changing, exceeding, or abolition of existing laws and forms for the sake of a freer, larger life necessary to the world's progress.
This is a very, very interesting paragraph, and I'll point out to you the accuracy of Sri words, the way he takes into account all the possibilities and gives all the possibilities, and that's why he's so all comprehensive. Okay, so we'll have a look at what he's saying. Okay, before we read, a background to what? Remember, the previous chapter was the standards of conduct, and he told us that all human beings are at various different levels of conduct, and we must not be very judgmental from our own standard, because others may be at a different standard. That's why we can't judge yogis, nor can we judge animals, okay, or inferior human beings. We should be kind and we should be understanding, which we don't have normally, unfortunately. So that is the standards of conduct. Then in the standards of conduct, he has told you, first law, ego. Second law, the social law. Third law, the moral law. And the fourth law, no laws at all. So this paragraph here is referring to that no laws at all. And if we are obeying, if the liberated man is obeying some laws, it is not because he is subjected to the social laws or individual laws or family laws, but he is because the social law or family law is not inconsistent with the divine consciousness. That's what he's pointing out. Very important point. And I'll give you some interesting examples also. Okay, so this is the background. So now I start reading. For even after he is free, the sadhaka will be in the world, and to be in the world is to remain in works. Now, the importance of this sentence is that there are some people who, after liberation, do not want to be in the physical world. Now, what is meant by to be in the physical world? Your consciousness is up there in the level 2. Your consciousness is not here. Your main consciousness, your soul consciousness is in the spiritual plane of consciousness. I'm not about the supramental, but the spiritual plane. But your body mind life is in the earth, on earth, it's in this area, level 1. So if you are in level 1 with your body mind life, you have to continue to work. And what is meant by work? Eating, sleeping, even emoting, having emotions is bound to happen. Even thinking is an action. So therefore he's saying, even after you have realized the Brahman consciousness, you are still in the world and you have to do some work. So what is that work that you have to do? That's what he's discussing. Okay. But to remain in works without desire, it is to act for the good of the world in general, or for the kind, or for the race, or for some new creation to be evolved on earth, or some work imposed by the divine will within him. Now look, all he has given so many interesting cases. We'll look at each case. To remain in works without desire is to act for the good of the world. This is what the Gita also recommends, that you have to be in the world and do good for the world. That's what most spiritual men do. Okay? Those who are really spiritual, that's what they do. They help everybody and they spread their light and consciousness and power and even their goodwill to everybody. To act for the good of the world. Loka sangrahanartham. Okay? Sarva bhuta hite rata. He is engaged in the good of all creatures. Bhuta creatures. Even animals. Okay? Many spiritual people are so kind to animals. Okay? Sarva bhuta. Okay, so mother was very much interested in cats. Not so much. They were interested in cats. She had 3-4 cats. And she had even given names to all these cats. Okay? One was Kiki, one was Big Boy. Big Boy. He was a very interesting character. And the Tamil Brahmin, okay, Rajangam, used to go and imagine, he used to go to the market, buy fish, boil the fish and give these cats. Okay, that was his work in the ashram in the beginning. Okay, so you have to really remain in the works and be good for the world. That's number 1. Then, for the kind. Now, what does it mean by kind? Okay. You have to. Kind is a group of people or things having common characteristics. Okay. This is the meaning which Srivastava is used here. Kind has many meanings. Here it means a group of people or things having common characteristics. So, you have to do good for the world, or the kind, or the race, or for some new creation to be evolved. Now, this new creation to be evolved is very interesting. You can almost say that he's giving his own example. Okay, he was first working for the race. He was working the world afterwards. It came afterwards. But Srivastava was first engaged in the revolutionary movement to free India. So that was the good of the race. The world came afterwards. When he's trying to bring down the super mind, he's working for the world. But not at that time when he was in Calcutta. That was the race. Or it can even be for the kind, only for your group, your family, or a small group of people. Okay? So race. And for some new creation to be evolved, that was his work given to him. The new creation has to be established. So that's why he was taken away from the freedom movement and put into jail. And then the Gita was put into his hands. And now read the Gita and understand. And then go to Pondicherry. Don't be interested in politics anymore. No more. So that is what he is pointing out here. To be evolved on the earth, or for some work imposed by the divine will. In other words, this example of you can give is Ramana Maharshi. Some work imposed by the divine will. Okay, I'll tell you why it was imposed. Because he wanted to leave the physical world and go away. Okay, he wanted to go up. If you have been to Tiruvannamalai, you would know that the ashram is at the foot of the hill, Arunachala hill, and halfway to the there used to be a small. Now they built an ashram where he was doing his tapasya. Okay, so he was going there. Deciding that he doesn't want to have anything to do with the world. I'll just live there. But then he found that on the path, there was an old woman who had put her feet across the path, very narrow path of the hill. If you've been there, you would know the path. On both sides, there are thorns and bushes and all, wild growth, and only a small path going. And she had put her legs on covering the entire path. So he told her, please remove your legs so that I can go to where I want to go. And she said to him, where do you want to go? Why are you going up? Go down. Go down into the foot of the hill. Why are you going here? Okay, this is a story which is absolutely true. So there is a work being imposed on him by the divine will. So you have to be, you can't go up and escape there. Your work is to go down and be at the foot of the hill. There'll be an ashram. People will come from all over the world for you, and you will have to do this work. So this is an imposition. I am only giving you, even Sri Aurobindo work was imposed on him. Okay. He didn't want to. He wanted to do the freedom movement. But the divine said, no, I am imposing another work on you. Go and do this supramental work. So this was, he very clearly, he is implying himself here in this one, but many others also it applies to them. Okay? Some work imposed by the divine will within him. Okay? But this time the divine will was not within him, but without him, outside. And Sri Krishna told him, go to Pondicherry, go to Chandanagar, go to Pondicherry. It is imposed by the divine will, not within him, from outside. Okay. And I read the next sentence. So you can see how he is telling you that you can work, if you are a spiritual person, you can do for the world, you can do for the kind, that means a small group of people, or the race. Okay. The race can be the nationality, or it can, it's a race is nationality here, because world is already included, humanity is up there first. Okay. So to be involved, or some new creation to be involved on the earth, or some work imposed by the divine will within him. The next sentence. And this must be done either in the framework provided by the environment or the grouping in which he is born or placed, or else in one which is chosen and created for him by a divine direction. Now look how many cases he has given. So when the divine will has to be obeyed, the environment has to be the correct one. Okay. If you are to do the work and you are put in an environment which is not conducive to you, how will you do the work? So this is what he's saying. This must be done either in the framework provided by the environment. The framework provided by the environment was not suitable for him, for Sri Aurobindo, in Calcutta. So he was sent away to Pondicherry. Okay. The framework here, he would not be disturbed by anybody, and the framework would be appropriate for the work that he had to do. And this must be done either in the framework provided by the environment or the grouping in which he is born. Okay. So, or placed. That's interesting. If you are born, for instance, we can see very clearly Martin Luther. Okay, he was born in the Christian world, and the work he had to do was to work in that grouping itself. He didn't go anywhere else. He remained in that Christian and started a new creation. He started the Protestant movement. That's one example also you can give. Okay, or placed. That means you are removed from one place and put into another. That's exactly what happened to Sri Aurobindo. Look at Mother. She is in France and she was placed in Japan, and then she was placed finally in Pondicherry. Okay. So she was born in France but placed in Pondicherry. So you can see how Sri Aurobindo's language is so accurate. We really enjoy the accuracy because he includes all his the words. If you read very superficially and shallow, you will miss all the interesting points. Okay. Look at Pavitra also. Okay, Pavitra was born in France, and he went to China, he went to Japan, then he went to Mongolia, and there he came to know about Sri Aurobindo, and he came to Pondicherry. So he are placed. You were born somewhere and placed somewhere else. Okay. I go to the next sentence. Therefore, in our perfection, there must be nothing left in the mental being which conflicts with or prevents our sympathy and free self-identification with a kind, again the same word, kind, okay, the group or whatever collective expression of the divine he is meant to lead, help or serve. Again here you see leading, helping or serving. Okay, so for instance, he was destined to lead, but Ramana Maharshi was destined to help. Okay? And serve also is interesting because some people, they do service. Okay? I remember we saw long ago a film, okay? Saint Vincent de Paul. We saw that in the ashram. Mother gave that movie, and Saint Vincent de Paul. He was a saint in the Christian world. And his work was, he was going and helping and serving people. Okay? He was serving. He was saving people from cholera, and there were epidemics. Plague was there in France at that time. Okay? So he was serving. So see how his accuracy goes. He gives all the possibility. When you are in a spiritual condition, you may be asked to lead, or you may be asked to help, or you may be asked to serve. All of them, it depends on what the divine will is. That's what he's saying. Okay? So you have to obey the divine will. But now there is another problem. If you are in the physical world, you are subject to social laws and the influences of the environment. But you have been told that the last standard for the spiritual man is Sarva Dharman Parityajya. So are you going to flout the social rules? That's a question that we discuss. So very clearly, if you are really in a spiritual condition and the divine will is to flout the social laws, you will do so. But now in this para, he is discussing, suppose you don't flout the individual and you are obeying the social laws, why is it? Are you subject to the society or are you subject to the divine? That's what he is discussing. Very interesting discussion. Okay. But in the end, I am reading the next sentence. But in the end, it must become a free self-identification through identity with the divine and not a mental bond or a moral tie. Okay? Moral tie, level 3. Okay? A union or a vital association dominated by any kind of personal, social, national, communal or creedal egoism. You are not bound to any personal laws, nor social laws, nor national laws. Okay? Not even nation, nor communal or creedal egoism. That national is very interesting because when India became free, okay, Pondicherry, the French became nervous and they wanted to also give freedom to India. There are 4 enclaves, no? Pondicherry, Mahe, Yanam, and Pondicherry, Karaikal. Okay, these 4 states were there, and they wanted to, and they didn't know how to handle that, so they came here. But Srivastava suggested that it can be an international, which finally happened. There was a lot of misunderstanding, okay, and people misunderstood Srivastava altogether. It's a very interesting thing. So even if necessary, you can defy the national needs, okay, communal or creedal. So you are subject to nobody. Now this is what Sandra is discussing. If any social law is obeyed, it will not be from physical necessity or from the sense of personal or general interest or for the expediency. Expediency, you understand? Temporary necessity is an expediency. If you are a doctor and you have to take a decision for a parent, you can take a decision for surgery. That will be the ultimate decision. Or you give him a temporary cure for some time. Okay, like they don't operate when you have got infection. So expediency, you temporarily give them some medicine. Expediency is temporal relief. Okay, so that's what he's saying. So he's saying none of these things will affect you if you are in the spiritual consciousness. But if you are obeying, why are you obeying? That's a question he's discussing. Or because the pressure of the environment, or from any sense of duty, but solely for the sake of the Lord of works, and because it is felt or known to be the divine will, that the social law or rule or relation as it stands can still be kept as a figure of the inner life, and the minds of men must not be disturbed by its infringement. I'll give you an interesting example of this. When doctors, Nirada was a doctor, okay, then Rajangam was a doctor. He just finished his MBBS, and Sri Aurobindo said, yoke him, bring him here. So he came, and they were doctors, but you are in French territory, and your degrees, Nirada, the degree was an English degree, not a French one, and Rajangam was an Indian one, okay. Not Indian also, that was also, but anyway, it was in India. So they didn't have French degrees. So there was a suggestion that they could start treating the Ashramites. Sri Aurobindo said, of course not, because then you are in French territory and you need a French degree. You can't do that. So this is the example that you are not obeying. You have to, if you disobey the law, social law, then you will be punished. So Sri Aurobindo agreed with that. But he is agreeing not because of some necessity of social necessity, but because the divine ordered him to do that. Because what is interesting also, suppose they had disagreed and they were retreating, then the government could have taken action against them. And then what would happen? His remaining secret in Pondicherry would get blown out of proportion. So the divine is saying, obey the rules there in Pondicherry. So he is obeying the social law just because the divine is telling him to do that. That's exactly what I'm saying. He is not doing it because of social necessity. Okay? Very interesting discussion. Okay? If, on the other hand, this social law, rule or relation is disregarded, that too will not be for the indulgence of desire, personal will, or personal opinion, but because a greater rule is felt that expresses the law of the spirit, or because it is known that there must be, in the march of the divine all will, a movement towards a changing, exceeding, or abolishing of existing laws and forms for the sake of a freer, larger life necessity for the world's progress. Here also I'll give you an interesting example. Okay. In India at that time, when 1920s and 19, okay, the women used to always wear either saris or salwar kameez, and they never expose their legs. Okay. But when mother came here, okay, she started telling, they started wearing even shorts. So this was a tremendous change in the social structure. Okay. But today, see what's happening? That had to happen, and that had to come in India. This social law of keeping women under subjection to certain social laws was going to change. And today you can see very clearly it has changed. If you go around the ashram, you will see how all are going about in not only shorts, but very, very short shorts. So this had to be changed. And that's why in Mother started the movement. By the way, there are many commentators who have commented on this. Okay, that Mother had the courage to defy social laws. You may not be knowing this about, that's why I'm mentioning this to you. In the beginning, it was pajamas. The women were asked to do pajamas for playground activities. Then slowly it changed to shorts. Okay. Mother did it in a very, very graded manner so that there was no tremendous bouleversement. There was no upheaval. Okay, so there is none. So this is what Assembly is saying here. When you have to defy the law, social law, you have to do it because the divine is commanding you to do, and the change is needed. But if you are obeying the social law, it's not that you are obeying the social law for the social law, but because the divine is saying it's okay, you can do that, because it will be part of your spiritual life. See how interesting the para is? Okay, he is going to all these very interesting. Now, I go to the next sentence. So, now it's a long sentence, so very long in fact. It's a huge sentence. I'm reading that, but with this background, we'll understand what is it. If any social law is obeyed, that's for him. Okay. Then, where the second sentence which says it's not obeyed. Yeah, okay. If, on the other hand, the social law, rule or relation is disregarded, okay, that's what mother did. Okay. That too will not be for the indulgence of desire, personal will, or personal opinion, but because a greater rule is felt that expresses the law of the spirit, or because it is known that there must be in the march of the divine all will a movement towards a changing, exceeding, or abolition of existing laws. Abolition. Okay. It's not a law, but it's a social custom, what I'm mentioning. No? And forms, laws, existing laws and forms. See, again, accuracy of Swedenborg language. It's not necessarily a law, but it's a form, social form, for the sake of a freer, larger life necessary for the world's progress. I give you another instance here. Okay? Yogis are not supposed to eat non-veg food. But mother had the courage to introduce non-veg food for the children in the corner house. And those who are also yogis also, they were having sometimes the non-veg food. So these are all the forms. Remember the last one was a yogi. Sarva dharman parityajya. Not necessary to listen to any social law or any laws at all. Only the divine law has to be followed. And if the divine law says that my law is coinciding with the social law, fine, no problem. You can do that. But otherwise, no. So, very interesting para. So many examples which he is giving. You could see how what he's saying now. Now we can go to the next one. 32. We have got 8 minutes. Okay. So, who will read the next one? Usually, Tarika or Pallavi jump at the opportunity.
I can read that.
Okay, go ahead, read. There is still. We have got 8 minutes.
There is still left the moral law or the ideal, and these, even to many who think themselves free, appear forever sacred and intangible. But the sadhaka, his gaze turned always to the heights, will abandon them to him, whom all ideals seek imperfectly and fragmentarily to express. All moral qualities are only a poor and rigid travesty of his spontaneous and illimitable perfection. The bondage to sin and evil passes away with the passing of nervous desire, for it belongs to the quality of vital passion, impulsion, or drive of propensity in us, the Rajoguna, and is extinguished with the transformation of that mode of nature. But neither must the aspirant remain subject to the gilded or golden chain of a conventional or a habitual or a mentally ordered or even a high or clear sattvic virtue. That will be replaced by something profounder and more essential than the minor, inadequate thing that men call virtue. The original sense of the word was manhood, and this is a much larger and deeper thing than the moral mind and its structures. The culmination of Karma Yoga is a yet higher and deeper state that may perhaps be called soulhood. For the soul is greater than the man. A free soulhood spontaneously welling out in works of a supreme truth and love will replace human virtue. But this supreme truth cannot be forced to inhabit the petty edifices of the practical reason, or even confined in the more dignified constructions of the larger, ideative reason that imposes its representations as if they were pure truth on the limited human intelligence. This supreme love will not necessarily be consistent, much less will it be synonymous with the partial and feeble, ignorant and emotion-ridden movements of human attraction. sympathy and pity. The petty law cannot bind the vaster movement. The mind's partial attainment cannot dictate its terms to the soul's supreme fulfillment.
This para is discussing the obedience to the moral law. Okay. Earlier he has discussed in the previous paragraph, he has discussed the obedience or the disobedience to the social law. Okay. And he's saying it's neither this way nor that way. Even if you are obeying the social law, you are doing it because the divine is saying it's okay. But if the divine says it's not okay, you can break the social law. There is no problem at all. That's what the tantrics do. Okay, they break all social laws. They do all sorts of things which are taboo in social law. Now, simply using moral law. Okay, so in this paragraph, we are discussing the moral law. We have got only 4 minutes. I don't know if we'll be able to finish the. There are quite a lot of things there, but I can do one thing. I can read the summary of what he's saying. We get the gist of what he's saying. Very clear. In this paragraph, he is discussing the obedience or the disobedience to the moral law. Okay. Just 1 second. Yeah. So I'm reading the summary because we don't have enough time for the. Yeah. After liberation, these are my words. You won't find it in the text. Huh? I'm just summarizing the paragraph. After liberation, we have seen how the spiritual man works in the world, confronting the first law of personal desires and needs, as well as the second law of social rule. Now, we shall see how the liberated man deals with the moral law. To many, the moral law appears to be the highest. To the rarer liberated man, moksha does not appear to be the last and final goal of spiritual existence. But for the sadhaka of the interior yoga, all moral and ideal laws have to be given up to the Lord, and he fixes his gaze on the loftiest heights, considering ethics as poor travesties. You know, travesty is a bad copy. Okay? Copying someone with a little twist and with an irony. Okay, that's a travesty. Okay? Of the ultimate spiritual laws. Moral laws are nothing but disfigured and distorted and diminished spiritual values. That's what they are. Ethics are mind-constructed spiritual laws. They are mind-constructed, not soul-constructed. In fact, soul doesn't even construct, it just obeys the spiritual laws. If at all, we can call them laws. That's exactly the spiritual. There are no laws at all. There's total freedom. Are laid down for each individual by the Supreme Lord. So, ethics are laid down for each individual by the Supreme Lord, and they may very well vary for each one. Okay? Because total freedom and infinite possibilities come into play in the higher planes. So, the divine may say, okay, you can obey this law. Or he may say, no, you need not obey the law. There are many, many cases in the Ramayana also, Mahabharata also, where even Rama, okay, did not obey the social law. Moral law. Okay. He hid behind someone and he fired his the arrow on Bali. That is one example. There are other examples also. Yudhishthira, okay, telling half a lie. Okay, so that elephant, yeah? So that is also half lie. So you don't need to conform to moral laws. Then bondage to sin and virtue disappears along with ego. So for the spiritual man, his bondage to sin and virtue, okay, disappears. Because with the ego, all these things go away automatically. It's not that you are following moral laws, but they just disappear for you. All passion, impulsion, desire belong to the guna of rajas, but he has become trigunatita, so he doesn't need to obey these things. But neither must the sattvic mind limit him Neither tamas, of course not, rajas also, and even sattvic mind, the moral laws also will not bind him down. Virtue is moral and does not bind the liberated man. So, liberated man can sometimes behave in a very non-virtuous manner because he is absolutely free. He is not bound by any social law. The karma yoga ends in soulhood and not enchained to the body-like mind, which are instruments only and are to be used as directed by the Supreme Lord. Tamas is a leaden chain that binds man. Rajas is a silver chain that ties man to vital desires and evil. Sattva is a golden chain. It may be gold, but it nevertheless chain. That's morality. Okay? Sattva is a golden chain that imprisons with misleading and specious ideas of virtue, humanitarianism, charity, etc. The spontaneity of soulhood replaces virtue with great love and compassion. The supreme truth is not to be found by the mind of man. Mind of man will never get the truth. You have to go above. Okay? Divine love may not conform at all with human love, which is weak, ego-bound, and the baser emotions of attraction and repulsion, sympathy and pity. Petty mind-made rules can never equal the divine laws of soulhood. Identification with the psychic and the self. That's what Sundar said in the paragraph. Okay? We have crossed our time by 2 minutes. So even the summary took some time. So if you feel like we can do this again, but this is the basic idea. Now he has dealt with the social law and the moral law. So the spiritual man is not bound by any laws at all. He has to only obey the divine law. And divine law is no law at all, total freedom. That's the whole point. So we stop here today, and all I can wish all of you a very happy Vijaya Dashami and have a nice day in any case. Okay? Au revoir, everybody.
Thank you, Rangada.
Happy Christmas.